Welcome to today's workshop on the Oxford-India Center for Sustainable Development Scholarships. Um, so I'm very quickly going to introduce you to Project EduAccess and to your panelists, and then I'll hand it over to our panelists to take you over what is the Oxford-India Center for Sustainable Development, what are the scholarships that they offer, and tell you a little bit about the applications, about the um, eligibility of the scholarships, and then we move to a Q&A. Um, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we are Project EduAccess. We believe that access to higher education, leadership, and professional opportunities is a privilege that most people from marginalized communities are systematically denied through cost information and dispositional barriers. And we try to improve inclusivity in some of these spaces by removing barriers for students from marginalized communities. We do this by adopting 4 key interventions, such as mentoring, counseling, role modeling, information advice guidance, capacity building, and leadership skill development, and evidence-based advocacy. Um, we have 3 very wonderful panelists who are mentors with us and sort of help us in our aim. We have with us Tabina, who's currently doing an MSc in Water Science Policy and Management and is an OICSD, which is Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development, a Mansa scholar. We have with us Medha, who is pursuing her DPhil, which is a PhD in Geography and Environment and is an Oxford-Indira Gandhi scholar. And we have with us Sanjana, who is currently pursuing an MSc in Modern South Asian Studies and is an OICSD Dr. Gita Piramal scholar. And thank you so much to the 3 of you for joining us. We also have with us Siddharth, who is not here on the slide, but is here with us in the session, who is the program director for the Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development, and will also be talking to you about the center, and then we'll be around to sort of answer some of your questions along with the panelists. So thank you to the 3 of you, and thank you to Siddharth for joining and doing the session with us in collaboration. Siddharth, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thanks, Ms. Ba, and thanks everyone for joining. I hope my audio is okay. What I'm going to do is maybe take a minute or two to briefly talk to you about the Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this might be relevant for some of you who are applying to Oxford and want to be on a scholarship. We'll talk about the scholarships offered by the center a bit later, but I'm going to take a step back and give you the big picture as to what the center is all about. So as you see, there's this word sustainable development in the title of the center, and that's the focus. So anything that relates with United Nations SDGs is what our focus is for the scholarships. And the whole idea is to fund scholarships on projects that can help tackle complex challenges and opportunities posed by SDGs for India and beyond. And the reason for that is a vast majority of students can't take up the positions despite having an offer from Oxford due to financial or other reasons. So, Ms. Ba, can you go to the next slide, please? So the center is based in Somerville College. It takes a broad view on SDGs, including social, environmental, economic, and policy aspects. But if you want a more clear definition of how these are defined, I would say that look at the UN SDGs that we'll talk about later. And any work that is interdisciplinary is given quite a bit of weight when it comes to deciding the scholarships. And the areas that we cover are quite broad, ranging from law, governance, engineering, technology, as well as humanities, physical, medical, and social sciences. And at the end of this talk, what I'll do is just walk you through the website so you can see what scholarships there are and who are the students who are on these scholarships. And the bottom bullet point tells you some of the examples of work. And as you can see, it covers a broad range of topics from water security, food and nutrition, law, environmental policy, solar, climate, public, gender, human rights, constitution, and the list goes on and on. So as long as you can justify in your application that your work is relevant for India, is interdisciplinary, and fits within the broad aims of the UN SDGs, I would strongly suggest you consider these scholarships. I think that's it from me. Thanks, Misbah.
Thank you, Siddharth. So, I'm a DPhil in Geography and the Environment Scholar at the university, and I'm on the Oxford-Indira Gandhi Graduate Scholarship. So, the OICSD offers a range of scholarships associated with different master's and PhD degrees to support graduate students. As Siddharth said, like they have a very broad interpretation of the SDGs. So, you can come from a physics department or a chemistry department, and it doesn't necessarily need to be from a social science department. So it's a very broad range of scholars that are working at the center. So please have a very like broad interpretation, and don't be too worried. Now for the October 2025 entry, there are 8 confirmed scholarships for outstanding Indian students. There may be more, so it's really worth checking the website from time to time just to see how it's been updated. There is no, and this is the most important thing about the scholarships, there's no separate application process for these scholarships. You need to submit your application for your graduate study by the relevant funding deadline on your course, and the relevant funding deadline is going to be listed on the right side of the website of the course page. So, whichever course that you're applying for, either at the end of it or on the right side of it, they will always mention that this is the last deadline for being considered for scholarships. You just need to apply to your department and your course by that deadline, and then you are automatically considered for the OICSD scholarships. But that being said, although there's not a separate application process, you need to mention in your application how your project or whatever it is that you're interested in aligns with the requirements of the scholarship and the broader goals of the OICSD. And it's really worth looking at the work being done. So make use of the OICSD website as much as you can. Look at what the scholars are working on, what the faculty affiliates are working on, and how you can relate. Can I please have the next slide? I think some of you, or maybe all of you, are familiar with this because this is such a popular topic. But these are the 17 goals that Siddharth was talking about the UN SDGs, and it ranges from no poverty to peace, justice, strong institutions, conservation. Health. So it's a really very wide range of goals, and the center has equal focus on all the goals. So even if you see that there is no current scholar working on a particular topic, that doesn't necessarily mean that that doesn't fall under the focus of the center. It just means that currently, given the range of scholars, maybe nobody's working on that, and you can pitch your project focusing on that. That I didn't see anyone. This is what my project focuses on. So yeah, it's a really broad range, and the UN has a very good definition of each of these, and the scope of each of these goals, which are very broad. So for example, under 11, sustainable cities and communities, it also looks at informal settlements and habitations. So really take a look at it when you're making your application. Next slide, please. Now, these are the scholarships for 2025. Not all scholarships are for PhD or master, so you would need to go and check what each scholarship considers, which courses. So there's the Dr. Gita Piramal Graduate Scholarship, which Sanjana can talk about because she's currently on that scholarship. There's the Oxford-Indira Gandhi Graduate Scholarship, which is my scholarship, so that's a DPhil scholarship. Then there's the Oxford-Indira Gandhi Radhakrishnan Graduate Scholarship. This is to be confirmed, so it's really worth really worth checking the website. So the Amansa Graduate Scholarship, Elizabeth Moore Graduate Scholarship, Cyril Shroff Graduate Scholarship, Savitri Bhai Phule Graduate Scholarship, and Cornelia Sorabji Graduate Scholarship, and Ratan Shah Bomanji Zaiwala Graduate Scholarship. Now, Siddharth can correct me, but except for the Cornelia Sorabji and the Ratan Shah Bomanji Zaiwala scholarship at the end of this list, All the other scholarships are full scholarships. So they cover your tuition fee and they also give you a living stipend. So basically, the scholarships are totally enough for you to just focus on your studies in Oxford and not have to worry about finances. Of course, the visa application fee is separate, and that is something that you need to work out on your own. But 8 and 9 are partial scholarships, so they do not cover the full tuition fee. So when you're planning what kind of scholarships you're interested in, it's really worthwhile thinking about your own finances and being sure that, okay, if you definitely need a full scholarship, which was the case for me, so which are the scholarships that you need to focus on while making your application and make a very compelling case for those particular scholarships. Next slide, please. For the Oxford-Indira Gandhi Graduate Scholarship, there's one scholarship available for 2025 entry, which is going to be a PhD scholarship. Now, eligibility applicants must be ordinarily resident in India or have previously studied at an Indian higher education institution. What they mean by ordinarily resident in India means that when you're not studying or working in a different country, India is your natural home. So, for example, when I was applying for my course, I was based in Oxford, I was working in Oxford, but I am ordinarily resident in India because I'm a citizen of India. That is what it means. So oftentimes I get questions from scholars who, I mean, not scholars, sorry, applicants who get a bit worried about what this mean if they are based. Suppose they are doing a master's in a different country in Germany, but it just means that you're a citizen of India and that you have previously studied at an Indian higher education institution. This means that you have done your bachelor's degree from India, which is quite a common eligibility requirement for a range of scholarships in general beyond the OICSD as well. Now, all PhDs are eligible, and this is building on Siddharth's point that they have a very open and broad interpretation of the sustainable development goals. So you can be from the natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, and you will still be eligible as long as at the core of your research your topic is interdisciplinary and it relates to sustainable development. But the proposed area of study must be relevant to the OICSD's agenda, as I said, of interdisciplinary research on sustainable development. Okay. The center's core research areas are sustainable cities, climate change, clean energy, healthcare innovation, environmental sustainability, food and water security. So I focus on water security, and again, these are the core research areas, but if you just look at the website and the pages, you will see that even under the core research areas, the scope of each of these areas is very broad. So it's not restricted to what people are currently doing at the center. The center is always very open to new areas of research as long as they align with the center's priorities. And then, of course, law, governance, and human rights are cross cutting themes, and independent proposals on any India related theme which fits within the overall aims of the center will be considered. So this is probably, I'm just repeating the point, but this is an important point that there's a broad interpretation. Next slide, please. Now, the other criteria. So, scholarships will be based on academic merit. I think all the applicants here would probably already know that any scholarship, usually the first criterion is going to be academic merit, and then the relevance of the studies to the center's interdisciplinary aims. So, especially if you're applying for a PhD, I mean, alongside academic merit, your entire PhD topic will also need to be relevant to your, for example, your supervisor or the department. So it's really for PhD applications, it's 90% of it, I personally think, is about alignment with the specific center, department, and supervisor. So number three is understanding of the development challenges faced by India. This is really important because it is the Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development. So it's not just about your topic, but also your general overall understanding and your critical engagement with the development challenges in India, which would be looked at in your application. And for leadership and entrepreneurial potential. So I think just with regard to a PhD as well, you have to have leadership skills and you have to be able to take initiative. So just sort of demonstrating that through your past experience, through the things that you've done previously. So departmental requirements of documents will differ. So some departments will want a very detailed PhD proposal, some will want a short statement of purpose. But whatever be the word length, it's really worth highlighting these in your application. So, for example, in my application, at the end of my proposal, I highlighted that my topic fits in with the Oxford-India Centre Sustainable Development because A, B, C, and I just gave the reasons. Now, like I said, the scholarship is a full scholarship, so it covers fees and living costs, but not visa fees, so you need to plan for that separately. Awards are made for the duration of fee liability for the course, which is 3 years. So the 3 years of your PhD are covered, and from the fourth year, you don't have to pay the whole tuition fee to the uni anyway. It's just an extension fee. You don't need to worry about that now. But yeah, it's the scholarship covers everything. And then the application process. So again, all eligible candidates who have applied for graduate study by the funding deadline will be considered, regardless of any college preference. I think this is an important point to clarify. So it doesn't matter which college you put in on your application under preference. I always put in no preference because for me it was like whichever college will give me funding. But the OICSD is the largest funding body for Indian students at Oxford. So it doesn't matter which college you put in, you will be automatically be considered for the scholarship. If you're applying to my department, which is geography and the environment, in my year, Somerville College was not listed in the list of colleges offering the degree. But don't worry about that, because even if your course is not offered by Somerville College, if you're an Indian student, if you're an Indian applying for graduate study at Oxford, you will automatically be considered once you have been offered a place by the department. So the first step is the department gives you an offer, and then you are nominated for scholarships through departments, and that's how your application comes to the OICSD. There's no separate application process, and shortlisted candidates will be asked to attend a video interview in April. My experience with the interview was very, very pleasant, probably the best interview that I've had in my entire life. So don't worry about it. Just focus on making the most compelling application, and let the OICSD take it from there. Next slide, please. So I'll just pass it on to Sanjana, who's on the MSAS.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Medha. Thank you, Siddharth. And hello, everyone. This scholarship is the Oxford-Indira Gandhi Radhakrishnan Scholarship. Currently, I'm on the Dr. Gita Piramal Scholarship, which has been established this year. So that makes me the inaugural scholar, and that also makes this the first year of the scholarship existing at the OICSD. But there's another scholarship called the Oxford-Indira Gandhi Radhakrishnan Scholarship. The number of scholarships is yet to be decided, yet to be confirmed. So please keep an eye out on the website. Please correct me, Siddharth, if that's contentious. The eligibility for this scholarship is that applicants must be ordinary residents in India or have previously studied at an Indian higher education institute. It really does not matter, and OICSD does consider. So please don't be held back if you're not at a tier 1 institution, because OICSD is very considerate that way. There are people from different backgrounds, from different educational backgrounds. So it's not just the tier 1 educational institutions that people come from, they are considered. It's not like that. It's yeah, very considerate. And the scholarship was open to applicants for the MSc in Modern South Asian Studies. There's the other criteria is that the scholarship will be awarded on the basis of academic merit, relevance of studies to the centers, interdisciplinary aims, understanding of the development challenges faced by India, leadership, and entrepreneurial potential. Since Modern South Asian Studies in itself is a very interdisciplinary course, so it's, I think, yes, it depends a lot on the kind of research that you've been doing and the kind of work that you've been doing and how you're able to sort of link that work with your research. I think that's something important that you might want to consider. Can I have the next slide, please? Or Siddharth, if you would like to add something on, yeah, that one? Yeah, good enough. Okay. Yeah. So this one is the Dr. Gita Piramal Graduate Scholarship. This is the scholarship that I am on. The scholarship covers course fees, a grant for living costs, travel allowance. Awards are made for the duration of fee liability for the course. It's a full scholarship. And as Medha was saying, and I would reiterate again, it's since mine is a 9-month course, it's a completely full scholarship, and yeah, there's a stipend included, and yeah. So there's one scholarship available for the 2025 entry, and the eligibility is such that the applicants must again be ordinary residents in India, and the following courses are eligible, which is the MSc in Biodiversity, Conservation and Nature Recovery, MSc in Economics for Development, MSc in Education, Child Development and Education, MSc in Education, Comparative and International Education, MSc in Education, Digital and Social Change, MSc in Water Science Policy Management, MSc in Energy Systems, MSc in Environmental Change and Management, MSc in Global Governance and Diplomacy, MSc in Global Health Science and Epidemiology, MSc in Nature, Society and Environmental Governance. I would again suggest to keep a lookout on the website for updated course lists if they are being updated. Yes, can I have the next? The Cyril Schroff Scholarship is again one scholarship which is available for 2025 entry. Again, applicants must be ordinary residents in India, and the following courses are eligible. So this year, the course that was eligible for this scholarship, which is the Masters in Public Policy, which is the MPP. But the final list for this year is yet to be confirmed shortly, and I would again recommend you to please have a look out on the Somerville website and as well as the OICSD website, where this will be updated by the end of month, hopefully. Yes. Is the Cyril Schroff a full scholarship? It's a partial scholarship, right? Siddharth, please correct me.
So the details for the scholarship will be made available on the course website
Right.
at the
Yeah.
end of the month.
Yes.
But in the past, what has happened is this scholarship covers your living expenses, course fee, and Blavatnik also chips in. So at the end of the day, it was nearly a full scholarship, combining the Blavatnik contribution as well. But again, for anyone who's keen to apply for this, and again, it's not a separate application process,
Yeah.
just check the OICSD website and the details will be there ideally by the end of the month or early next month.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, very well. Yes. The Blavatnik is, for context, is the Blavatnik School of Government, which is the department which offers the Masters of Public Policy. Yes, can I have the next slide, please? The Savitribai Phule Scholarship. This was, I think, established last year, and this year we have the second Savitribai Phule scholar, who is Gladson Waghela. You can search him up, and yeah, you can find out more about his work. Criteria for this scholarship is that candidates from marginalized communities and underrepresented backgrounds in India who have been accepted for certain graduate taught courses and whose studies are related to the Oxford-Indira Centre's core research areas, which have been discussed in the last few slides, which are like climate change and many others. Candidates must be ordinary residents in India and identify with one or more of the following categories. The first one is that they are from Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi, SC, ST, OBC communities. And the second criteria is that they are first generation learners. This award is a full scholarship and it covers the course fees and the grant for living costs, and awards are made for the duration of fee liability for the course. Yes, can we have the next slide? Yes, the eligibility for the Savitribai Phule Scholarship is such that following full-time courses are eligible for it. So the MSc in Biodiversity, Conservation and Management, MSc in Economics for Development, MSc in Energy Systems, MSc in Environmental Change and Management, MSc in Global Governance and Diplomacy, MSc in Global Health Science and Epidemiology, MSc in Modern South Asian Studies, MSc in Nature, Society and Environmental Governance, MSc in Sustainability, Enterprise and the Environment, MSc in Water Science, Policy and Management. Can I have the next slide? Yeah, the next scholarship we have is the Cornelia Sorabji Scholarship. The current Cornelia Sorabji scholar is Mehak. I would definitely recommend her up as well and looking at the work that she's been doing. Um, one scholarship is available for 2025 entry. The partial scholarship and the exact award level is to be confirmed. The scholarship will be awarded on the basis of academic merit and relevance of studies to the OICSD's interdisciplinary aims. The eligibility is such that applicants must be ordinary residents in India, and the following courses are eligible: the Bachelor's of Civil Law, Magister Juris, MSc Criminology and Criminal Justice full-time, MSc in Law and Finance, MPhil in Law, and the MPhil in Socio-Legal Research. So this is more focused on law and criminology. Yes, can we have the next slide, please? I think I'll hand it over to Tabina now, who will talk about the Amansa Graduate Scholarship. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you Siddharth, Medha and Sanjana. I think most of the things have been covered, but I'll start with my scholarship, which is Amansa Scholarship. So I am also one of the inaugural recipients of this scholarship. So this scholarship also is quite new scholarship. There is also one scholarship available for the 2025 entry, and the eligibility is same for most of the for all the scholarships that candidate must be an ordinary resident of India, and there are certain courses which are eligible for this scholarship particularly, which is MSc in Biodiversity Conservation and Management, MSc in Economics for Development, MSc in Energy Systems, MSc in Environmental Change and Management, Global Governance and Diplomacy, Global Health Science and Epidemiology, Modern South Asian Studies, and SAG, that is Nature, Society and Environmental Governance, and the course which I am in, that is WSPM, Water Science Policy and Management. So these are the list of the courses. I often get this question a lot of times, that what is the criteria for applying for this Amansa scholarship, which I have. I think the Siddharth and Medha, what they said is exactly that your department has to nominate you for the OICSD scholarship. It is your department which shortlists you for certain scholarship or all the automatic scholarships. So once you get an offer from your department, your applications are sent to the OICSD, and later on you have to appear in the interview in the April. Can we go to the next slide, please, Medha? There is another scholarship, that is Ratan Shah Bomanji Zaiwal scholarship. So this is also one scholarship for the 2025 entry, and same, a candidate should have a good academic merit and should be able to describe the relevance of the studies to the OICSD's interdisciplinary themes. The courses which are considered for this scholarship include BCL, MJUR, MSc in Criminology and Criminal Justice, MSc in Law and Finance, MPhil in Law, and MPhil in Socio-Legal Studies. Can we go to the next slide, please? Misbah? So while last year I was preparing for my application, and I attended the workshop, one of the panelists, Fahad, who was last year Indira Gandhi Radhakrishnan Scholarship, I think he gave one of the wonderful presentation on that, how to prepare. And I think Siddharth will go with the general tips, and I'll later on add to it how I incorporated these tips in my application, and which really worked for me.
Thanks, Tabina. So I think if it's okay with everyone on the call here, what I'm going to do is briefly talk about some of the tips that I would give when it comes to preparing your application. And I don't think it makes a lot of sense for me to talk about that a lot, because I want the scholars who have made these applications recently to share their experiences. And I also want everyone on the call to have time for questions. But still, I think it's important that I cover a few points. When it comes to preparing an application, there are two parts to it. One is, what do you do before you start preparing? And the second is, how do you prepare? So let's take a step back and see what are the first things that you need to consider before you even start preparing the application. Now, if there is anyone on this call who thought, well, I have a bit of free time on Sunday, I'm going to join the call and see how it goes, but I'm not quite sure whether I want to apply or not because I don't know whether I'm good enough or not. If there's anyone on this call in that category, I think the fact that you are here shows that you have an interest in making these applications, in which case I would say go for it, as long as you can cover the financial cost of making that application. And I consider it can be a bit high. But if you do make the application, and I would strongly suggest you do, these are the next things that I would recommend. The first one is for anyone who's applying for a taught course, check very carefully what the eligibility criteria are. And for that, go to the course website at University of Oxford and go through all the details very carefully. Do not skip any sentence. Read it a couple of times, read it very carefully. Check what the deadline is. Check what the exact documentation is. Check what the requirement is for each documentation, including things like word count. Do not exceed and make your application well on time. Even if you're like a couple minutes late, your application might not go through. Most likely will not go through. The statement of purpose is a very strong document, and this particular slide will cover that. I'll come to it in a bit. If you're applying for a PhD program, anyone here on this call, it's called as a DPhil at Oxford. And if you apply for a DPhil or a PhD, I would strongly recommend that you contact a potential supervisor at Oxford and check with them what project they would supervise you on, what are the details, how to prepare the application, have their support, and so on. That would increase your chances of getting an admit for a PhD. And again, I would strongly recommend that if you're very keen to start studies next year, apply for Oxford, but also have other options in mind. So apply for more than one place. Just don't rely that it's going to be Oxford, otherwise nothing. So I would say apply for one or two more at least, if not more. So that is what you do before you start preparing. The next question is, what do you do when you are preparing? So there are different parts to this slide on the Venn diagram that you see here in the 3 circles. And I think I give complete credit to Fahd, who created this very clear, very concise slide. There are 3 parts to it. The first one is, what is your experience? What are your skills? What is your passion? What is your interest? That has to be made very clear at the very start of the statement of purpose. You then have to link it with, what is the problem statement that India is facing? And you have to be very specific about it. What is the problem that you want to focus on during your PhD or during your master's or your BCL or your MSc, MPhil, whatever courses? What is the exact problem that you want to focus on? Why are you doing this course? Why Oxford? Why this particular postgraduate degree program? And then the third aspect is, where does the Oxford-India Center fit in? Why do you think these scholarships will be relevant for you? Not just for financial reasons, but most importantly, for you to have the platform, the resources, the skills, the network, the communication to be able to tackle those problems more effectively. So the way I see things in this particular case is, imagine you have a necklace with 3 pearls. One is who you are, what's your background, what's your history, what's your passion. That's the first pearl. The second is, what problem do you want to work in Oxford and beyond, after Oxford as well? And then the third is, where does the center fit in? And your statement of purpose is the thread that connects the 3 pearls together. So what's the underlying overarching idea that you have? And I think you have a lot of text on the slide. I would strongly suggest people on the call, maybe take a screenshot or take a photo using your phone and focus on these. And just remember one more thing. You are not making an application for the OICSD scholarships directly. You're making an application for your course. In your statement of purpose, if you think that your work is relevant for these scholarships and the center, feel free to mention it somewhere and link it all. But again, there is no separate application process for the OICSD scholarships. And if you find there is other college that has more scholarships for your course, feel free to apply for that college. It does not decrease your chance of getting these scholarships. The only condition is, if you're offered an OICSD scholarship, you will have to move from the college that you're allotted to Somerville as a condition. And I think what I'll do is pass on to Tabina, who I think can explain much better how some of these points were useful for her.
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth. Thank you so much. So what I did was that in my SOP, I clearly mentioned who I am. By this, I mean to say what are my lived experiences, including my professional and academic experiences, what I have seen, because I'm an environmentalist. I come from environmental science background. In environmental science, for example, I can't cover everything. I can't be an only person who will tackle with all the issues, but at least I tried to be specific on my own issues and interests which I was looking for. So I related them to sustainable development and the overall development of my academic and the professional journey. Then having clarity for what issues and challenges I have experienced, that made me to choose a course. Is it the name of the university which attracted me to the course, or there are some certain specific courses which attracted you to the course rather than the brand name of the university? I think in my SOP I haven't mentioned more than once the name of the Oxford University. Rather than I have focused on the course which I am looking for, what skills I am going to have after this course. So, having clarity of thoughts, for example, what I am going to do after I am done with the course, what will be my immediate future, and what will be my long term future, and why OICSD should take me, for example, how I will contribute to the center. Because once, like last year, while I also attended the workshop, what Fahad said, and I quote him, that we are an asset to the center. There is nothing on the charity or humanity basis. It is all about we are a resource to the center, how we will contribute to their research, and how we are fitting in their themes. So having clarity of thoughts and ideas along with our experiences makes our application strong and definitely for the scholarships. So having clarity of ideas, being focused on the ideas and not covering everything which comes to our mind. For example, coming from an environmental science background, it would have been easy for me to jump into all the issues which we currently face. So rather than jumping into everything, I always try to be concise and focused on the issues which I am working on. So your SOP is one of the key factor to determine most of your scholarships and ranking in your department, which is because it is ultimately the department that ranks our application and nominates us for the scholarships. So I hope these tips were very useful for me while I was preparing, and hope will be useful to everyone.
I think I will just chip in a little bit to what Tabina said. Thank you, Tabina. Thank you, Siddharth. This is a very wonderful Venn diagram. I think that pretty much sums up how an overall application to Oxford, the department, and hopeful consideration from the YCSD looks like. Yeah, I think I come from like a journalistic background and then I moved on to academia. So definitely I pointed out what made me shift that perspective and why I want to be in academia because the MSc in Modern South Asian Studies is a very humanities-centric course. And if people are interested in that course, it's important to know that it's interdisciplinary in nature and that it considers a wide range of backgrounds. So just don't be held back from like applying to a course that you're interested in and just check in the requirements that they have mentioned and they keep on updating on their website also. The course is offered by the Oxford School of Global and Area Studies, as well as the Asian and Middle Eastern Studies Center. So just check what research is happening at AIMS. AIMS is short for Area and Middle Eastern Studies Center, and OSCA is the short form for the Oxford School of Global and Area Studies. They keep hosting a lot of online talks. Some of them are free to register and free to attend to all. I would definitely recommend attending these because this is something that I had done. And the courses I was interested in before applying, I would just try and see if there's something that I can attend or a press release that has happened of any event that I was really interested in that really aligned with my research. I would attend those and I would try to see what kind of conversations are happening in these departments. I think that really helps us gain this kind of a clarity of thought of what kind of research is happening and how your research fits into that. So that's one piece of advice I wanted to give specifically. In terms of SOP writing, I think I think somebody has asked the question, how should I mention about OICSD in the SOP? Any examples? As Siddharth said, if the research that you have proposed, you think really aligns with the goals of OICSD research or sustainable development goals, it would be fair to mention it, how it links with the OICSD's research aims, or like how it links with, how your project links with the OICSD research aims. I think that's one way that you can mention it in your SOP, most definitely. But yes, SOP writing process, I think it's a very deeply personal, but not completely personal, academic, and it's like a 360-degree view of who you are, who you've been, and what you want to do. So like your past, your present, and then what is something that you're looking forward to, and how determined you are and for like achieving that. So I think yes, these were some general advice that I had, and I'll pass it on to Ms. Pa, who might have some thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. That was really, really amazing. So this is what we usually do in our presentation on the scholarship, which is just to go through the website. I don't know if Siddharth, do you want to maybe share your screen and just go over what the just how to navigate the website, how to find the scholarships. Otherwise, we have screenshots, so it's also okay if you
Okay.
don't.
Can you make, okay, let's see.
Yes, I will.
So what I'll do is maybe take a minute or two to talk about the website, and I see there are a few questions in the chat, and then we'll take them one by one if that's fine. So just bear with me for maybe 2 minutes, and then we'll come on to the questions. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just going to give you a very quick live tour of the OICSD website. And I think this is important because when you apply, you should know what resources there are. And I'll cover both university resources and the OICSD. So the first thing to do is go to this link here in the top left that I've highlighted, som.ox.ac.uk/the OICSD, or just search OICSD in Google and you'll get this link on top. I want you to scroll down and you would have a few tabs here. I would recommend that you go to the scholarships tab, but also go to the scholars one, where you can see who are the current scholars working at the center and what courses they are on and what is their research, because you might find a lot of similarity with your work. So go to scholarships, and here there's a table. I think that's pretty clear as to which scholarship is available, what's the eligibility, what is the award level, and how many scholarships are available for 2025 entry. And as I said, some of these scholarships are still being finalized, like the Radhakrishnan scholarship. So these details will be updated ideally within the next 2 weeks. So just keep an eye out. Now, let's say we were to pick any particular scholarship here. So I'm going to pick any random one. Let's say I take the Gita Piramal scholarship. So it tells you what is the criteria, what would it cover, how many scholarships there are, and there's a link. So once you come onto the scholarship page, identify which scholarship you're most keen on, for example, or you want to figure out more about, click on the link, and it takes you to a web page of that particular scholarship. It tells you all the details. It tells you what courses are eligible. So if any of these courses are relevant for what you're applying for, you know that you're going to be considered for that scholarship. You know what is going to be the criteria, award level, and so on. But now let's say that you are going to apply for MSc in Energy Systems. Click on that link, and now we move away from the OICSD scholarship web page onto the university web page for that particular scholarship. And what I would recommend very strongly is for anyone who's applying, go to your course web page on the university website and go through all these tabs extremely carefully. Read them at least twice, if not more, so that you don't miss anything. And one of the most important bits here are the deadlines right here. You cannot miss these deadlines, even by a minute. College preferences are right here. Again, as I said, you don't need to specify Somerville. Apply to a college where you think there are more scholarships. And if you get OICSD scholarship, you will be transferred if you want to. Then go to how to apply and then check all the details here as to what you need to upload: CV, referees, transcript. Personal statement says maximum 500. Do not cross it. Don't make a 501 word statement. Just keep it within the limits. So in short, all I'm saying is you have two set of resources. One is your course and the second is the scholarship. At this point in time, scholarship is relevant, but what's more relevant to you at this point in time is the details on the course website. So go through both of these very carefully. Now, if you have any doubts, what you would see is they give you a contact. So for example, for MSc in Energy Systems here, that's the email. So if you have any doubts regarding the application process, what certain terms mean, what's a first class with honors, what does that translate in India, anything, send an email to your course coordinator, ask what that means on the course website. You can also call them, but I would not recommend that. I'll say send an email and clarify that. I think I'll stop sharing. And Ms. Ba, thanks again. If you can share the slides, I'll go to the last slide with the OICSD contact.
Yes.
Thank you. So now let's assume, and this particular slide on the resources, I'll make it very clear, is not relevant to any of you at this point in time. This will be relevant only by March if you have a conditional offer from Oxford. So the way things are going to work now is, let's say you prepare an application, you make an application to your course, be it in December or January. The application goes to the department from the university. The department will consider it. Let's assume you get the offer. This would be around, the decision would be made around end March. At that point, the selected applications, the nominated ones from the department, will come to the center, and then these contacts would be relevant for you. So they're not relevant now. Don't send an email to the scholarship and funding officer. Makes no sense at this point. But maybe in March, once you have an offer, and the contact person is Victoria Wilson, who is the scholarships and funding officer at Somerville, and she also takes care of the Oxford-Indira Center scholarships. So you'll have more resources and contact at that point. But I'll reiterate, the contact that matters to you now is your course coordinator that we just saw on the university course website. So I think with that, I'll stop. And if there are any questions, we all as a panel can take them. Thank you, Ms. Ba.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. There's quite a few questions already in chat, and there's a hand raised as well. So, Sachin, maybe you can unmute and ask your question, and then I'll just go over the questions in chat.
Yeah, thank you, Misbah, for giving me chance. I wanted to ask you about the SDG 4 quality education regarding. So I saw two courses as around that, but is there someone where I can reach out to them and talk to them regarding these courses there around this quality education?
I can take that.
Yeah.
One of the best things to do is to look up on LinkedIn people who've been on that course and write to them. So for my course, I did the MSc in Water Science Policy and Management, and the DPhil people just directly write to me and say that I'm interested in applying for this course. When they are very generous with their time, you can even say that, would you be willing to look at my statement of purpose? Over the years since I've been at Oxford, I've done that personally for many, many people. So really feel free to reach out to, I mean, LinkedIn is a very good platform, so just literally look up the course and people and write, but don't trouble them too much. Write to them one message. If they haven't responded to you, find somebody else who'll do that. but this is the part where you directly talk to alum or students on that course, and usually they are very helpful.
If I
Thanks,
might quickly
Medha.
chip in for this question, I'm posting in chat 3 courses in education that are eligible for the Gita Piramal scholarship this year. So you mentioned you're interested in education. If any of these 3 courses are of interest, I would suggest contact your course coordinator, check the eligibility criteria, make an application, make a strong case as to how your work will impact India and beyond. And I think that's a starting point.
Thank you, Siddharth and Medha. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sachin. So I'll go to the chat now. So there's the first question, which is asking about eligibility of a specific course. They're saying they are applying to the MPhil program in School of Anthropology and Museum Ethnography, and they want to study on human-wildlife interaction with the major focus on conservation, but they don't see anthropology mentioned as any of the courses that are eligible. So would they be considered for the scholarship?
I can take that super quick. So if your course is not included in the eligibility list of courses for different scholarships, unfortunately, it won't be considered. But the list of courses is still being finalized. So my recommendation would be to just keep an eye out, and we'll try and finalize it by the end of the month. But even if the MPhil program in anthropology may not be on the list, the DPhil program is.
Yeah.
And can I just quickly add, this is about a different scholarship. So the Felix Scholarship, for the Felix Scholarship, all courses are eligible. So you can also take a look at that. So just because you're not eligible for a certain course for the OICSD doesn't mean that you don't have other scholarships at Oxford for which, because there are these blanket scholarships for which all courses are eligible. So you can also take a look at the Felix Scholarship website.
Yes, thank you, Medha. Another question is, will mentioning OICSD scholarship in the SOB reduce our chances for getting other scholarships that are offered at Oxford?
I hope not. I would believe that scholarship funding bodies are open to such decisions. A lot of these scholarships that we have awarded did not mention OICSD on the SOP, and they had mentioned other scholarships. So I think at the end of the day, every scholarship body wants to fund the most deserving candidate, and I don't think anyone should be penalized for not mentioning that scholarship name. So at least for the OICSD, I can say without a doubt, it does not reduce your chance if you mention other scholarships.
Yeah,
I can add to this point that I have not mentioned name of any scholarship or scholarship body in my SOP. So, but the work which I am going to do is relevant to most of the scholarships. So it gets automatically considered for most of them.
great. Thank you, Tavi. Another question is, can you give an example of short-term or long-term goals that relate to the OICSD?
Maybe I should take that. So I think what I would say is goals are, number one, we think of us as a scholarship awarding body for Indian students who are most deserving, and then enable those students to do the research that they want to and translate that into practice on the ground in India. The other goal is to enable research and act as a platform for different faculty who are working at Oxford and allow them to have a stronger link with academics back home in India. So the goal is basically to enable people like you to be able for them to do the research that they want to without enforcing any strong goal. But it's more like an enabling bridge, a platform. I don't think I have more to add, but if anyone wants to.
Yeah, just a quick thing. Assessors are very realistic about what you can know about your long-term goals as well. So, like Siddharth said, like it's good to have an idea, but reviewers and assessors are not expecting you to have a full-fledged plan of your future. So don't worry too much about it. As long as it just fits, and they just want to see that you're a passionate person who's sincere about the work that they want to do. So that's it. So don't worry too much. It's not a detailed plan. I just gave an indication of what I would like to do for India, and with say decision makers in India and how I would collaborate for my research, and that was enough, I think. So yeah, don't worry too much. Your assessors are very reasonable. So
Perfect. Another question is, do different scholarships have different deadlines, or is it the standard deadline of January end?
I can take that. You really have to look at the scholarship website for that. Oxford has so many scholarships, some which you have to apply to. For example, the Weidenfeld Hoffman Scholarship. So there's a separate application form for that, as in my year, I think. And some you get automatically considered for. But usually it should be the last deadline that's listed on your departmental website for your course.
If you meant the scholarship deadline for OICSD scholarships, then yes, it depends on, again, your course website, as Medha said, and it does not have a separate deadline individually.
Another question, which I guess all of you have responded to in some way or the other, is, since the SOP is 500 words, how do we mention all of the scholarships we want to apply to? Do we need to mention all of the scholarships we want to apply to?
I'll take that. So you really don't, and somebody also asked in the chat if mentioning OICSD will decrease their chances of being considered for other scholarships. I personally did not mention any scholarship that I want to be considered for, because then the kind of project that you are also proposing is a reflective of whatever scholarship body does consider you in the end, or it's a prospect for much later. I would not say that it would like decrease your prospects of being considered for other scholarships, because you would, I think, equally be considered by the admissions board of the course first, which is the Oxford admissions, and not the scholarship body, which your application goes to them at the second stage and first to the course. So yeah.
If I can just add to that, so the thing is, if you're applying for a master's course, you still have the option of an SOP where you can, and it's not about mentioning which scholarship you want to be considered for. A way of just mentioning it is that you would, at your time, so when you're answering the why Oxford University question, that is a place where you can strategically say that they have the Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development, where they are doing this work that's relevant to my work, and I would be keen to engage with the center during my time. So you don't have to directly say, can you please consider me for the scholarship? Just say that this is one of the reasons why you're applying to Oxford in the first place. And the second bit is, if you're doing an MSc program, so when I applied for the MSc, I had an SOP, so I could talk a lot about myself. For the PhD, for my department, there's no SOP. It's literally an academic proposal where I can't talk about myself. It has to be an academic research proposal. So at the end of it, this is the same thing that I did, that the topic is relevant and I would be interested to sort of engage with the Oxford India Center. That's it. So the word count doesn't matter. It's just how you position it. I have also never mentioned the word scholarship, but this is something I said last year as well. I didn't know one of my referees did this for me. They put it in their reference that I would like to like this is a very strong candidate to be considered for scholarships. So even though I didn't mention the word scholarship anywhere in my application, I didn't know that one of my referees in their reference had put in a very strong support for me being considered for scholarships, and that will matter. So maybe when you're talking to your referees, you can just say that I need funding, and do you think you can put that in for me? So that's another strategy. That's it for me.
I think I'd just add a little more on the referees part, because I think we've not covered that quite a bit in today's session. But there are other sessions on EduAccess that specifically focus on these things, so you can definitely look at those. But in terms of references, it would always be better to get references, I think, from professors or like academics who know your work really well. I think that does help. As opposed to somebody who really does not know your work, is like a really established person, but really can't talk about your work at length, or like how you are as a person, or like how long they've spent with you, how long a time they've spent with you. And so yes, it really does matter. It does add to the richness of the references that you have also.
Okay, another question is, I guess this is just about the department they can do their work in. So I've completed my master's in ecology, environment, and sustainable development from TIS. My thesis during MA was in traditional ecological knowledge in ethnic food habits, and I continue to work with food security. I'm currently looking to apply for a DPhil. Could you please suggest how should I apply for a DPhil? I'm a bit skeptical with the center to apply to. Basically, where does my research area fit in? For the DPhil applications, I would say we've got a lot of of videos on PhD applications. So have a look at that. That might be helpful for you. Some of them are specifically on humanities and social sciences. So that may be helpful. But about the department, I really don't know if anyone has any.
I think this might fit into the School of Geography because she's talking about ecological knowledge. So have a look at the faculty members on in the School of Geography and Environment, and you might find and food security. There's a center for food systems in the School of Geography and Environment, so you can take a look at that as well.
Thank you, Medha. Okay, there's another question. It's a bit long, so I'm just going to read it out. While I was attending a Project EduAccess session, one thing that was highlighted was that the importance of fitting your research area into the university's research. This is the first time getting to know that a department is open to very broad areas. And even when you don't find people working in the exact intersections you work on, at the same time, there is a necessity to fit into OICSD's larger goals. So how do we navigate this? And I want to apply for MPhil, and my proposal is interdisciplinary, but I'm not finding supervisors working exactly in my area. How do I demonstrate that fitting in my department? And similarly, how does that work for a DPhil? Yeah. The question's also in chat if anyone wants to.
I can take that. I think first of all, Misbah highlighted Project EduAccess has fantastic range of videos on DPhil. So I always, whenever somebody asks me anything, I say first look at their videos and then come back to me with more specific questions. Second, this is important. If you're not, so the OICSD is not about finding supervisors. It's a funding body. So the part where you look for supervisors in your department is the first bit, and then once you get an offer, you get considered for scholarships. If you're not finding supervisors who are working in your area, like Siddharth said, reach out to the ones who you think may be the most related, even if not directly related, and see if they are willing to supervise you or have a conversation. If not, then like Siddharth said, Oxford may not be the right fit for you, because you need to be able to have supervisors who can supervise you. So just because it's Oxford and it's a department in Oxford, it may not be something that's suitable for you. And PhD is a very long-term commitment. You need to have the good fit. So yeah, I would just really focus on first figuring out a supervisor and then thinking about everything else. And maybe Siddharth can add, or anyone else.
I can just briefly chip into what Medha said, and she covered most of it, I think. So I'm going to reiterate again. The underlying overarching objective here is to find a supervisor with whom you can work on a project that you're very passionate about, that you really like. In the question I see you're asking, there's a necessity to fit into OICSD larger goal. I would say there is no necessity. If your work aligns with the center, you will be considered automatically for these scholarships. But the objective here is for you to do a project that you like with a person that you like. And then automatically, if they accept you, your application will be considered by us. And then we see, you know what, this person is working on these areas which fit within our goals. And so we'll consider for scholarship. But I would highly recommend that you don't tweak, adapt, tailor your application just so that it fits a scholarship application. So I won't go that way. I'll do the other way around. Do what you enjoy with a person that you want to work with on a project that you like. And if that fits in with the center, you will be considered automatically. But you have to contact supervisors. And if you think that your area of research is not something that Oxford does well, then so be it. But the focus has to be what you enjoy, I think.
I think that was really nice of that, and that's a good point for us to end the session as well. I don't think there's any more questions in chat, and we're also like beyond our 1 hour scheduled time slot for this session. Were there any questions in your DMs that
I
maybe you
think
want?
there is one question where someone is asking, can I apply for 2 scholarships at the same time? The answer is you are considered for more than 2 automatically by the university in most
Yeah.
cases, and then you can apply for others as well. So that is fine.
Perfect. Great. For that, I will end the session now. Thank you so much, Siddharth, Medha, Sanjana, and Tabina for joining us today. Thank you thank you to the Oxford India Center for doing this session in collaboration with us. And I hope all of you who joined us today found the session helpful. The recording of the session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and I'll just send you a link to that in chat now. So the recording of this session as well as recordings of other sessions we've conducted over this year will be available on the YouTube channel. So please have a look at that if you want to familiarize yourself with various scholarship applications or various aspects of university applications. You might find it helpful. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you again, Siddharth, Medha, Sanjana, and Tabina, and thank you everyone else who joined.
And
Thanks so much,
thanks,
Medha, for organizing this. Yeah, Siddharth, sorry, I cut off Siddharth.
Medha.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, thank you, Misbah, for having us, and you do such a fantastic job every year. So thanks.
Thank you, Misbah. Thank you so much. Last year I was one of the mentee. This year
Yeah,
the panel.
that's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much, Misbah, for organizing this. And thank you to everyone who joined in.
Thanks, Ms. Ban, EduAccess, and I want to wish all the applicants all the very best with their applications. All the best.
Bye, everyone.